Hello, welcome to SPDM TV. My name is Mike, part of the SPDM crew, and I watch a lot of TV. We talk about various TV topics, reviews, and general appreciation of TV past and new. You can follow me on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Serialized at MLHilty2452 to see what all I'm watching. This week, we are going to be talking about Squid Game Season 3 and maybe something else if we have a little bit of time. But I am here with frequent guest. We've talked enough about television shows that he's almost borderline a co-host at this point. Friend of the show, SiftPop contributor, John Tillyard. John, what's up? How's it going?
It's going good, man.
Good, good. I'm glad to talk to you. Looking forward to these because Squid Game season 3 came out. It's been about 6 weeks since Squid Game season
Yeah,
3 came
it's
out.
been a hot minute, definitely.
At the end of the day, it is Squid Game season 2 part 2. Like I'm not a huge fan of Netflix. Some of Netflix's strategies when it comes to certain things, like they could split the Karate Kid, or not the Karate Kid, Cobra Kai's final season into 3 parts, and yet it's all one season. Yet this gets split up into 2 seasons.
Yeah, officially, I think it was season 3, but it's basically part 2 of season 2
Yeah,
because
so
it's the same game he's playing for one thing. So it's
it's
just
it's the same game. It picks up right after the events of season 2. This will be a full spoiler talk. It's been about 6 weeks. If you haven't watched it
been
by
hot.
now, dare I say that's on you, but
Yeah.
we'll see. Why don't we start with this? Going off of just our trusty Sif Pop scale, did you Squid Game season 3, did you like it, love it, hate it, dislike it, or did you think it was just okay?
There is definitely stuff in here that I really liked, but I think it's outweighed by the stuff I didn't like. So I'm gonna have to say it's just okay. I think overall, maybe high side of just okay,
Oh,
perhaps.
I'm right there with you, except kind of on the lower side if it was just okay. There's some very compelling moments in this, but it is dragged down by a couple of decisions that are made from a plot standpoint. Certain plot points, I just don't understand where they ended up
Yeah.
going with them. I think it's a combination of they ran out of runway and they just jammed in way too much into these 2 seasons that just didn't pay off at all. And that ending, I'm not quite sure how I feel about how the overall series ends. Not so much. There's a couple things about the ending that I did like, but there's a couple things that I'm like, oh wait, I'm not sure how I feel about the way some of this shook out, particularly on the accountability front, particularly with like the high rollers and all of that. Like nobody's held accountable for these games. And
Yeah.
Yoon just
Yeah.
his initial mission just gets lost completely when something happens in the middle of the hide and seek game that I'm sure we will get to soon enough. So, but yeah, overall, I'm on the low side of it was just okay. Something happens at the end of this where it's got me kind of excited for what's to come from this. But I am worried a little bit that Netflix is just going to run this concept into the ground, and I'm optimistic. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I'm a little optimistic.
I am not keen on that ending. That if you're talking about the very last scene, yeah, I'm not keen on that as an idea, really.
Okay,
But yeah, the ending overall just is all the problems. It's where I have all the problems really with this season.
okay. Why don't we start a little bit kind of with some of the things that we enjoyed about this season. And John, I'll let you go ahead and start. What was something that you enjoyed about this group of episodes?
So the obvious theme with this entire show is like it's about capitalism and how it's not a good thing. But I
Mhm.
actually thought this like season 2 and season 3 combined, particularly this third season, it's much more about democracy and
Mhm.
how maybe it's not a good thing in a lot of cases. Like you kind of like the idea in theory of like giving everybody a voice, giving everyone a vote, and then illustrating the kind of problem of like mob mentality and how like you basically just have what ends up being like voted for is just the thing that most people think, the average sort of like favorable thing, and the average person's thoughts, and the average person maybe isn't that bright and maybe doesn't really know what they want, and how that can be kind of a problem. And I think also the other problem with the way that people try to justify it when it's a vote, you see that very much with the last game, that they vote to like kill the baby, and they're like, well, we voted for it, it's not anybody consciously making any individual decision to kill the baby, we voted for it, so that that sort of makes it okay. So I definitely like that sort of theming of it, and also just like showing how like evil people can be when money's at stake. They're them just like being so angry at the fact that this baby has brought the money down slightly for them. It's like, no, the baby hasn't done anything, it doesn't deserve it, and everything. Like it's a baby, guys.
Right.
And
That
obviously the wanting to kill the baby just so they can get the money is, it's awful to think that there probably are people out there that would think like that in that situation. I think it's a very good commentary on what people really are like.
I probably think there's way more people who are like that, simply also when people are backed into a corner because of the choices that they made. Or I'm not going to say debt is always a choice. Sometimes there's circumstances that do happen where people find themselves in debt by helping out a family member, or making a bad investment into something. But then there's individuals who get into gambling debt that just struggle to just get out of that hole. It's interesting. It's an interesting parallel because Fantastic Four First Steps kind of deals with a little bit of a similar situation where there's a baby involved and people are like,
yeah, very similar.
Why can't we just give the baby to Galactus? That one baby saves us all. It's crazy to think that that is something that people would actually consider. And it's funny because I'm just thinking about like the things that are going on in the US right now, where there's the anti-abortion group who's like very pro-life, yet they'll do nothing to improve the quality of life of individuals after, like, it's just crazy how babies, like, there's no line for some of these things. The whole thing with the baby is something that I'm very conflicted on, because adding the baby to the game seems very extreme, but also it seems a little like undemocratic as well. Like the baby wasn't like selected for the game. It didn't
Yeah,
choose to be part of the game.
that's
There
the
was
real
no
problem.
consent or anything like that. So, and we already have precedent that a parent and child can be in the game at the same time, but they both have to choose to be in the game. But this is one where it's like, oh, we'll just throw the baby in just for entertainment value. So yeah, I'm conflicted about that a little bit, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that. But in terms of what you said, I really like what you said about kind of the perils of democracy and how, yeah, everybody should get a voice when it comes to certain things. But when you do get that mob mentality and you do have people who you could really tell that they don't have the whole group's interest at heart, do
Yeah.
we like, is it really, is it right to give people that voice, especially when the deck is already stacked against perhaps like the right decisions when it comes to this? So and it plays out at the end with the final game, the Sky Squid Game, which, okay, cool, Sky
Yeah,
Squid Game.
that's basically the whole idea with the final game, is just like voting and choosing to kill someone.
Yeah.
But that did bug me about the baby. Like the whole idea with Squid Game, the sort of justification they have for it is they all chose to play and they all chose to continue in the case of this second game. The baby didn't choose anything. So I don't really understand the logic behind, that they have like this kind of twisted logic, the people that run the game, of like, you all chose to play, so it makes it okay for us to do this. But the baby did not choose to play, guys. So why are you putting in the game? So that did bug me, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it shows, and to me, this kind of segues in nicely into something that I really liked about this season is the fact that the use of violence as a means of entertainment is something that I quite enjoy. Like, I've always enjoyed that about this show, and just how, look, we're both fans of the NFL, and how it's a very violent game, and we're using that as justification for, or not, we don't use that as justification, but we like the NFL because there's, it's a very competitive sport, but it is very violent. I'm not sure how you feel about things like MMA or boxing or anything like that, but those combat sports, sometimes they can be kind of hard to watch for me. I don't watch it consistently, but if it's on, I'll be like, okay, I guess." But Squid Game has always been really good about its use of violence when as a means of entertainment, particularly for the elite class. And you mentioned before how economics and just every greed as a means of driving everything in this game just is a big part of this series. But I think this season in particular, with the inclusion of the baby and a democratic process, that's something that is constantly said throughout these two seasons, like in accordance with this fully democratic process. It's very interesting how the high rollers, like even just the high rollers, even participate in some of the violence as well, where they actually get in and they get to kill people during the hide and seek game. And yeah, like I
The
think
VIP.
Oh, the VIPs, yeah. VIPs. I don't know why kept calling them the high rollers. My bad. But yeah, it's just it's crazy to think that the just we're still at this part where violence as a means of entertainment, and we've seen this before with Battle Royale and the Hunger Games as well. And Squid Game just continues that tradition very much and very well.
Yeah, I almost think that the fact that they have the VIPs be American, I almost wonder, because obviously the American is like the main audience for this show. Are they supposed to represent us? Are we supposed to be the VIPs? Do you think?
Probably. I can definitely see that because, all the VIPs, they're American, they're all white as well. So just yeah, I can definitely see that being a thing. I almost borderline expected that they're like at the end of this series that we were going to find out that, oh no, this wasn't player one from season one that created this game completely on his own. It's bankrolled by like a big powerful American investment thing, which also would kind of give credence to what happens at the very end of this series, but that ended up not being the case. Nope, the VIPs are just, American douchebags who, like to
Yeah.
watch all of this and just are completely entertained by all of this. John, anything else like on the good side that you really enjoyed about this season?
I like that. Is it number one, the guy in charge? I'm no good with the character names in the show.
The front man?
Oh man, that was it.
Yeah.
He gives Su Ying a choice to like just kill everyone before the final game, and I actually quite like the fact that he was also faced with that decision when he was a player, because I think what he's basically trying to do here is sort of justify that decision in his mind. He's thinking anybody in my situation would have made that decision to kill everyone, and then Su Ying doesn't do it. So
Hmm.
that immediately it's like, oh no, someone else in my situation did not make that decision. So that is entirely on me to kill everyone. That was me that made that decision. That wasn't like I had no choice sort of thing. So I do like that bit of like he's kind of got a conscience in the back of his mind, but he's trying not to listen to it, and he's trying to find another way to sort of say no, it wasn't me. It was like just the situation. So it's not really clear what he thinks now that he realizes that actually it was him that made that decision. But I think he is like overcome with guilt now that he realizes that. I think that was really good. I thought.
So there's a lot of parts of the frontman story in this season that I really enjoyed, and I think you hit the nail on the head. This whole notion that he is just somebody who just wants to see the game continue. I think that notion is kind of shattered a little bit, especially after his confrontation, or not confrontation, his meeting with Gyun, and how we are led to believe that, I feel like that meeting was a bit late in this season, but it did occur at the, I think, at a good time, after like just right before the last game, so it would make sense for them to have a confrontation then. But even just going into the end of the final game where Giyun, he sacrifices himself for the baby, which kind of broke my heart a little bit, but it was the only way. Like I don't see a scenario where Giyun would have won again.
I actually did kind of predict that even before the final episode started. It's like it's going to be just him and the baby, and he's going to have to sacrifice himself. I
So
kind of knew that was it.
yeah, I mean, because that's the only way from a storytelling standpoint that this would have been remotely compelling. Because otherwise, we're murdering babies for the sake of money now, and that just seems ridiculous. Because there was a small part of me that the dad, the crypto guy. I'm horrible with names this season as well.
Three,
So
three, three. Use the
so
number.
yeah, so I had a small feeling that maybe he would play into this somehow, and instead he helps get us to the final tower for Sky Squid Game, but then they messed up. They didn't
Just
play
press the button, guys.
they we didn't press the button in order to start the timer first, and then Giyun has to make a choice, and that sucks. The last thing he said though was like, "Hey, we're not horses, guys. We're people." I thought that was powerful
It's great,
stuff.
great.
A great way to go out, a great way to end. It did kind of suck a little bit that that Yoon's daughter had to semi find out by the front man. It's like
Yeah.
your father was a good man, I guess, and like I that does not sit well with me, but also whatever. It is what it is with that. One other thing that I will kind of shout out that I liked, boy, that hide and seek game was, oh, that got me good. I
Yeah.
I did quite enjoy that hide and seek game. Even the jump rope game I thought was really good as well. So I did enjoy the games for the most part. The Sky Squid game, oh, okay, cool. It's visually cool, but it also didn't make a whole lot of sense from a storytelling standpoint or from a game standpoint, because it wasn't like Squid Game. It was just, hey, let's push people off of a tower type of thing.
Yeah, it's less of a game and more like a character study, I suppose. That
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
But yeah, visually, the jump rope game in particular, I really like the setup for that one. And the hide and seek, I think that's kind of an interesting. I don't know if you've ever seen Squid Game: The Challenge, but I'll be interested to see if they, because it's like an actual version of the actual Squid Game, with real people, and
Mm,
obviously they don't kill them; they just shoot them with a paintball thing when they're eliminated.
yeah.
So I'll be interested to see if they do that for a second season, if they actually do the hide and seek game and how that works out. Because that was really interesting, like tactically, I thought, the
Mhm.
decision, you want to be a person that hides or a person that seeks, and how do you go about hiding? How do you go about seeking?
Yeah,
So,
and then also the implication there is that if you are a seeker, in order for you to get to the other side, you have to kill somebody. And
yeah.
that to me was like a fascinating wrinkle that came about. And man, we lost a lot of characters during that, and some characters that I was not expecting to lose that early.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people that died that you kind of expected them to die early on, because we needed a consolidation of some of these characters. So for instance, the crazy cult lady, or the spiritual guide, or whatever her name was. Look, I don't wish death on anyone. I think that's just kind of mean-spirited, but even she was starting to grate on me a little bit, especially since I watched the dubbed version of this, which the dub on this is just god awful. It's like,
I yeah, I had to watch the sub version because the dubbing is awful on this, and it
so
wasn't the season as well.
yeah, yes, it is a consistent trend that the dub on this is not very good. But the spiritual lady was one that I was like, yeah. The also we have a random childbirth in this. You'd expect that at some point that the baby was going to be born during the games potentially because she's very far along. I was not expecting it here, and it did bring about a new wrinkle in terms of, oh, we have, oh, like how are they going to incorporate this baby? I don't exactly like how they incorporated the baby, but it just added a new wrinkle in there. But in the hide and seek game, the mother son dynamic and
Yeah.
parents kind of answering for the sins of their kids, and parents trying to help their kids out is a big theme throughout the course of this season in particular, because you've got the mother son in the games, and the mother just wants to help the son out, and it sucks that that particular relationship gets, leave at the end of the hide and seek game. She has to kill him because he can't kill anybody else. I
It's tragic, yeah.
It's
Sad
sad.
moment.
It's very sad, but yeah, but these are the choices that brought us to this point. And then the soldier, like the soldier was the one that, or the former soldier. God, I can't remember her name, but I was not expecting to lose her during hide and seek, and especially since she found the exit and she comes back to, she could have just crossed the finish line and would have been safe, but she goes back to help the old lady and the new mom, and she gets got during
Yeah.
that. So that was, a lot of people died during hide and seek that I was hoping would make it a little further in, but yeah, just it was brutal to watch as well.
It was the mom that really got me, and she has to take her own life after that as well. She can't live with herself after what
Yeah,
she did.
yeah, that's so that whole thing with the mom, it was really compelling stuff, but it also follows kind of a track record of Squid Game not exactly treating their female characters the best way. But yeah, overall, that storyline, especially since the mom, one of the last things that she does before she does take her own life is she talks to Gyun and be like, "Get your head out of your ass, man. Like your mission now, you got to take care of that baby. You do."
Yeah.
And because Gyun for the first couple episodes is kind of in this funk where he is upset that his, resistance movement did not work, which, yeah, I would be upset about that too. But he spends the entire hide and seek game pretty much just scouring for revenge. So, which I did find that very, very compelling because he's going for revenge after the guy that kind of deserted them during the resistance, and just the whole back and forth between, like, it's somebody's got to be blamed for what happened during the resistance, and like they're all turning on each other, but at the end of the day they don't really realize like that resistance was doomed from the start, because you had the front man who could just in a snap just be like, yep, we're like this is done. Well, we could crush this easily and go from there. So lots of compelling things happening in hide and seek, and even in the jump rope game, where you have an interesting strategy with the jump rope game, is that Gyun gets across pretty early with the baby in tow as well. I found that very impressive. So
Yes, that was very good.
good for him for that. Then there's a guy that gets to the other side and was like, "Hey, I got an idea. If I make it all the way to the end, I can just push people off the side so that nobody gets through." Like, it's a horrendous strategy, but it's also a great strategy as well, to try to eliminate more players. So it did kind of break my heart a little bit that the mom of the baby, she decides, like, because she's got a bum ankle, so she just getting her to the other side would have been a challenge, like, especially
I
since,
actually thought Ewan was going to go back across. He was going to pick her up and then carry her across. I'm not quite sure how he was going to jump over the jump rope with her in his arms, but I thought that's what he was going to try and do. But I think she probably just realized that, it's just so unlikely to succeed. I think she just, please don't come.
I
you know,
would
the
have, I would have, if they were going to have any redemption or crypto guy 333, it would
yeah,
have been not, it would have been good to have it here, but they didn't. And that's
yeah.
fine. Like that's what they chose. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff with hide and seek and a lot of great stuff with jump rope. And then the last game is the last game. It's there's always something compelling about that. So, John, anything else that you liked about this season that you want to talk about before we kind of start ripping this to shreds a little bit?
I mean, I thought Gune's arc was kind of interesting in the fact that he's so like emotionally like drained from the heist, like not working out at all. And I think with the vote, he's kind of accepted at that point. It doesn't matter what I say now; they're just not going to vote to end the game. So he just doesn't even vote at that point.
Hmm.
So it's like I just give up at this point. Again, the stuff with the mother, 222, the new
Hmm.
mayor. So I do sort of like her character in sort of general, the way that she does make the logical decision that you can't risk coming back for me. I need the baby won't survive if you were both killed, and she sacrifices herself for the baby. I thought it was like kind of an interesting idea of like they were setting up there of going back and forth to try and get them to both survive, since her obviously the baby has to be carried across and she would have to be carried across. Yeah, it's like a kind of a moral dilemma and also kind of a strategic, like, have you got enough time sort of thing that kind
Hmm.
of got me kind of thinking, strategically. And the tactics you talked about knocking everybody off, that is an actual strategy I've seen in the game Fall Guys. I don't know
Mm,
whether that's the idea, but I do like that that's an actual video game strategy that they've now incorporated into actually killing people.
right.
It's like
It,
kind of an interesting, like, darker take on the idea of what people do actually do in games. But yeah, the hide and seek game was really fun, like strategically. The jump rope thing is kind of fascinating of thinking, what are they going to do here? And then the tower game is kind of just a character study, I think, at the
mhm.
end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the games were pretty fascinating, I thought, just the way that they unfolded. It's like, just enjoyed the games like in general and some good character stuff as well with them.
I,
Okay.
I just think season two and season three, their games, I think collectively as a whole, the games were fascinating, but potentially bogged down by other plot points that, oh, there's a lot of plot points here that just didn't go anywhere. And they were a little frustrating to me about what are we doing here? I think we're Squid
Didn't
Game.
go anywhere, I think sums it up very well.
Yeah, Squid Game season two and three, I suppose, falls into the we're going to expand the world a little too much, and we kind of just start to lose a lot of focus on what we're actually doing here because there's a couple competing storylines that are jockeying for attention, and there's just not enough time to do all of this stuff in.
Too
And
much.
there's a couple story points that or like there's one story point, the whole thing with the guys on the boat trying to find the island. Yeah, that makes sense for people to do that. It turned out to be a whole nothing burger at the end of the day, but it makes sense to do that. This whole thing with Noel, the like I don't get it. I don't understand why we did that. And if but I get why like conceptually in my head, I'm trying to rationalize like a way that it actually works, but they just it doesn't work. It's just that
It has
story just
nothing to do with like the main storyline at all, really.
yeah. And just her as a character just wildly underdeveloped. I don't care about her motivations, what she's doing, or anything like that. Because I don't know, it felt like a storyline that it was like, this is a good idea. Let's see how it pans out. And to me, that whole storyline could have easily been edited out. And I
Doesn't add
think it doesn't add anything to the game and it doesn't add anything to the story overall. And I think it could have been something that would have made the show a little bit more tight and consistent. Yeah, it just there's too much going on and they needed to consolidate a little bit of stories and they instead just went the opposite direction where they just continued to expand the storylines and just it didn't work in their favor.
the Noella storyline actually kind of reminded me of what they sometimes do in Doctor Who, which is that they just have a character like show up, and it's just to try and make the audience think to itself, I wonder who that is. What are they doing? It's like that's all they give you. You know, just like I bet you wonder what this is. So I bet you wonder what might be going on. There's no actual mystery or intrigue about it. It's just a thing that you don't know what it is and you don't know the answer. It's a mystery box, I believe they
Mm.
call it on Doctor Who. So it kind of reminded me of that. And then the actual answer turns out to be, well, she's just a character with a bit of a past, and it's not actually important to the main story, and it's
Right.
just like an extra like side thing for you to, I don't know, add a bit of like to the experience. But I honestly felt it was in there just to make you go, I wonder what that is. I wonder what's going on. And
Well,
it
I,
didn't need it.
it didn't, and I honestly think it kind of reminds me a little bit of the lack of payoff we got from Finn's storyline in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. You see someone on the inside potentially maybe having a moral conundrum about what they're actually doing and wondering, why am I doing this? But no, that's not what happened at all. And
No.
that's just very muddy storytelling there and just some very odd choices in terms of what she's supposed to be doing and even just the ending of her story. I was like, I don't care about any of this. Like when you have a limited runway of things, it's frustrating. And it's like, why are we focusing some of our attention away from like things that are like core story components that for something that just got introduced now and something that just doesn't pay off at the end. That's hindsight 2020. That's Monday morning quarterbacking at its best. But
Yeah.
I just wonder if the creators and the writers and the showrunners for this season could go back, be like, yeah, I think I just would have picked that one up and just, left that on the editing room floor and just
The
called it a
cutting room
day.
floor, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely would have been okay. The other thing that disappointed me about the ending is Dune sort of goes into this game with the idea that he's going to save as many people as he can. How many people does he save? The baby wasn't even born when the game started. That's the only person that survived.
Well,
It's like, he literally doesn't save anyone that was in the game.
nope, nope. But the other thing too is that he goes into the game with two missions. He's going to save all these people, but his other primary mission, stop the games. And that just not only does that not happen at all, but this is the accountability thing that I was talking about earlier, is that the via like I thought a comeuppance was in store for this season for the VIPs. But nope, they're just there for entertainment value again.
Yeah.
They're just they brought nothing to this season, and I wasn't a huge fan of the VIPs inclusion of this.
It really did irritate me the way they kept cutting to the VIPs. It's like, yeah, I know they're watching. Are they going to do something? No, they're just watching. I
They're
don't need
just
to know that every 5 minutes.
they're just watching, and it just shows that they're like, yeah, let's, way to make the game interesting by throwing a baby into this. Like, you literally can't make the VIPs worse, and you managed to find a way to do that. So
Yeah.
awesome for that. But the with Gyun, I think until his end sacrifice at the end, I don't think that they did a very good job in trying to focus what Gyun was supposed to be doing, because his whole thing about wanting to stop the games kind of just ends. And maybe this is a commentary, maybe this is saying something about parenthood and how, you know, hey, when you're a parent, all of you could have all the best plans in the world, but when you're a parent, you have to focus on, the kid or your kids, even if it's not your kid in this case with the
Yeah.
baby, but you have to do what's best for them, especially since he's the only one that's kind of thinking rationally about this. Is like, this baby's innocent. It didn't do anything to get to be put in this position. The baby's just included in this just purely for entertainment and for greed value. And that's where also the game kind of succumbs to the same thing that all these participants kind of got. A lot of these participants get put in this situation because of their own greed. And I think the games kind of succumb to that as well, is that the games are greedy for entertainment, and including the baby in this, it was just kind of the last thing that there was no coming back from anything with the games. But yeah, it was just that I'm very conflicted with the inclusion of a baby in general. I think the only thing that would have been worse is that if they would have decided to include a puppy in the game, and that just animal cruelty is bad, but like including a baby in this and just making it okay just to like dangle the whole prospect of potentially having a kid killed just did not sit well with me at all.
I honestly did wonder, are they actually going to go as far as having the baby actually die? Are
Mhm.
they actually going to put that in a TV show for people to watch? So I was quite relieved that they actually didn't go that far. But yeah, it really does seem like they're just trying to push how cruel and how unkind they can make the characters in this. Baby seems like the perfect solution, and it's really quite disturbing actually to see that Yoon is like the only sort of rational or ethical thinking person like involved in any of this. Like the players and the VIPs and the people running the game, none of them seem to care about the idea of killing a baby. They all
Mhm.
just think, yeah, well, it's just something that needs to be done.
Just part of the game, just
Yeah.
part of the game. I think one of the other story points that I was expecting to have like some type of conclusion to, but just turns out to be nothing. The front man and his brother.
Yeah, didn't really pay
What the
off.
fuck, man? What the fuck? Like that. So that storyline, you're waiting for that confrontation all season long. Season two and most of season three. And for it to end with the front man going to collect the baby, okay, that's fine. But also for the brother to get there in time before the island or the facility blows up. And all it amounts to is like he's just going to shout at him from a distance and then that's it. And then the front man leaves the baby with him with all the money and be like, hey guy, you remember that I'm still out there? Here is a reminder of the fact that I'm still out there by saddling you with a random child.
Yeah.
Granted, it comes with the added bonus of a ton of money for you, but you also have to take care of a kid that's not yours. That we did not get any indication throughout the course of these two seasons that this guy wanted to have a kid. So we are sentencing this guy to indentured parenthood. What are we doing here?
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I didn't really understand that last bit. There's a lot of stuff at the end I really didn't get the significance of. It really did leave me just with a bit of a sour taste. That whole like last 15 minutes. I'm like, what is any of this? What is important about any of this that we're watching? It's like
Mhm.
because the game's end a decent amount of time before the end of the last episode.
It does.
It's like 20 minutes.
It very much so
Yeah.
because in in those final 15 or 20 minutes or so, we've got a couple things going on. So after the game's end, we got the confrontation between the two brothers that amounts to pretty much nothing. We've got some wrap up that happens with some of the miscellaneous storylines like the soldier Noel. Just something happens there. I was pretty checked out of that
Yeah,
storyline by that
didn't
point,
get it.
but I didn't care. You have the front man going to America to give Gyun's daughter his winnings, which that was very nice, but also his uniform. Like why would you give her his uniform? Like that should not be something that you're proud of. And just when you think like the ending to me was very much a downer, but I didn't mind that it was a downer, but also there was just a lot of things about the ending that I was like, we're just wrapping some of this stuff up, and I think I'm wondering if they just ran out of time for story.
Yeah.
If there was
Possible Netflix pushed them to make the last episode longer or something.
yeah.
Maybe.
Okay,
I
we
think maybe the uniform is supposed to like parallel when they tell like loved ones that your father or your husband has been killed in a war, and they always give them their uniform. I think when they do.
maybe yeah. I could definitely see that being a thing, but also, or maybe it's just supposed to be symbolic of how the uniforms showed who Gyun really was, which was, he was a good person, made some bad choices, but he was good might be a strong word because he chose to be in the games willingly during season one, made some morally ambiguous choices during both sets of games, which that's what happens to everybody. Nobody gets out of
Yeah.
these games unscathed. had good intentions, but just didn't amount to it at the end. But also, hey, little girl, here's a reminder of your dad who you don't like because he's a shit dad as well.
Yeah.
So
I,
there's
I actually forgot he even had a daughter because I don't
I
think we've seen her
complete
since the very first episode.
I completely forgot about that as well. Because you'd think that Guillaume would use some of that money in order to, help his daughter out, but no, he just uses
Yeah.
all of that money to try to bring down the games, which granted, that is a very noble cause to use that money for, and also to use it as a or a slick visual with having a pyramid of money on a bed, on top of a bed, nonetheless. None of this, oh, I hide my money under the bed. No, I just keep my money in a
Yeah.
giant pile like that.
I thought they were trying to rip off Breaking Bad, to be honest, with that picture because it's
Mhm.
very similar.
Yeah, yep. I very much agree with that. Okay, I think we may have slightly different feelings about like the last sequence, which let's just rip the band-aid off with that is Kate Blanchett is the recruiter for allegedly an American version of Squid Game. They're playing the same game that those in South Korea were playing and slaps and
Weird.
all.
This is weird because I think isn't that a South Korean game that they
I
actually
I I
do
think
that?
it is.
So why would they play that in America as well?
I don't know. As opposed to, I'm trying to think what would make more sense for a game to be played by a recruiter, a game that they could institute there. Would it?
Yeah, yeah, true. That's a good question. Like Go Fish, maybe, or Rock Paper Scissors.
I was thinking rock paper
Somewhere.
scissors, or
Rock Paper.
I was thinking either just going back to football. I was thinking either just simple coin toss as well, just like
Oh,
heads or tails, and just kind of going from there. But that's that. I think rock paper scissors or a coin toss kind of leaves everything to chance a little too much unless you have like a weighted coin. But that's where I think the skill level comes in with that slapping game that I don't know. I think that that's just another way to like showcase power with these games is like, hey, I know how to play this game. I have the upper hand. So, but anyways, I'm gonna let you talk about what didn't work about that particular sequence and why you're kind of down potentially on an American spin-off of this or just even just continuing to expand this lore because we've all seen this that when Netflix loves something, by God, they will run it into the ground.
yeah. Just one other quick thing that bugged me. Just this is kind of a minor thing with the last game. The way that Dune and 333 are fighting at the end, I'm just screaming at my TV, "Press the button!"
Mm,
The only
yes.
reason they don't have them press the button is so he can sacrifice. He has to sacrifice himself at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought that was a bit deep. You know.
I agree. I agree full-heartedly with that because all of that could have been just simply resolved if they would have decided to press the button, but they didn't. So
But yeah, this ending, if it's literally just an ending and they're not going to do anything else with this, I'm probably okay with it because I actually quite like the message that scene has of like, they've ended the Korean Squid Games, but the Squid Games as a worldwide thing are still going to go on, and capitalism will always be a thing out there. No matter what you try and do to quash it, you can kill or get rid of individual people that believe in it, but there's always going to be other people out there that believe in much the same kind of thing. So you can what is the figure of speech here? The king is dead, long live the king, maybe sort of
mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
But if they are going to do like spin-offs of like Squid Game USA or something like that, I'm not quite so keen on that as an idea. Like I think this is like kind of a show about humanity and what people are like. Are they going to try and suggest that people in other countries are different in terms of like what they do? I mean, obviously we'd be able to see different games, I suppose, like in America, or even if they did a UK version, like traditionally like American games, traditionally British games, that kind of thing. That might be somewhat interesting to see, and you wouldn't have like the language barrier thing. So, because I think they said about this original Korean series, like even the subtitles don't really reflect what the characters are actually saying because it just doesn't translate well.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't be that problem with it. But I just feel like, in essence, like the actual message of the show and the theming of it, it would just be the same thing again. Just it would just be American. So
Yep.
I am not interested in that.
Mainly, like here, the only slight counterpoint that I have to that, because I largely agree with you, because we've seen the American perspective on this over and over and over again. And I think part of the appeal of Squid Game is seeing another culture and seeing another culture and their values come into, like, they clash with everything that the game represents. I think
Yeah,
we've seen that way too many times with Americans to know that it's going to be very interesting if they try to insert someone in there, because it's going to feel like 12 Angry Men at that point.
yeah,
One moral guy and him trying to rally people to his side, and then that's it. Like, it's either that or every single person in this game, if they're making an American version of Squid Game, is going to be unlikable, pretty much.
yeah.
So I only have one reason why I have slight pause for this, because if it's true that David Fincher is involved with this, I'm I'm compelled in it, but also I also think David Fincher knows how to, he does a good job with, like, analyzing the minds of, like, messed up individuals, but, like,
Possibly, yeah.
is there going to be any good characters in an American version of Squid Game? Especially also, I read a report that they're going to talk about classism. Like, well, yeah, no, duh, you have to talk about classism in that. I could see them also doing things about conservative versus liberal, and, like, if they do that, then I will check out. Like, I don't need another thing about conservatives versus liberals. I'm living it here, and I just no. I don't need that story in my entertainment right now. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I think I think the ending would have compelled me a little bit more if, I think you're right. I don't think I need an American version of Squid Game, but I think I'd be a little bit more compelled if it was like a different area of the world, I suppose, just to show that this, you know, the games are going to continue no matter what, because there's always going to be people, there's always going to be the haves and there's always going to be the have-nots. So, yes, at the end of the day, it's a very cynical ending, but also that's the reality of the situation, right? So,
Yeah, I do like the message of that final scene that, the Squid Game idea
mhm.
will continue.
But the implication of that moving forward, are we both excited for an American version of Squid Game? I think both of us are kind of in the camp. No,
No,
not really. So, John, anything else about Squid Game season 3 that you missed, or anything that you wanted to touch on?
no, I think I've talked about everything I want to say. But yeah, it's that ending that really sticks with me. It's just like left me so unfulfilled. I was actually excited up until like the last episode, because I thought we were going to get like a really good, satisfying payoff, and it just never happened.
It didn't, and I think this is it's not just a Netflix problem. It is a TV trying to milk something for everything that it's worth. If this would have been a one season, one and done, I I think I think Squid Game would have gone down as, one of those great shows on Netflix that, lasted one season and then that was that. Did I love the ending of the first season of Squid Game? Yes and no, because I think that there was a little bit more of a satisfying payoff, because you're rooting for Gyun to win, and there was that familiar component between the final two. You've got this confrontation of long-standing, acquaintances, friends, if you will, and then the choice that Gyun makes afterwards. I wonder if the original ending of Squid Game season 1 had him going to the plane, or getting on the plane and going to America, or if Netflix was like, "Nah, dude, you got to do a stinger for potential season 2." Like, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, I was definitely like skeptical about. I suppose it was season two, not season three, when I first saw the trailer, because I was like, he's just in the game again. But when I saw actually what the direction they were taking, and he was going to stop the games, I'm like, that's actually quite interesting. I want to see him do that, and what happens if he succeeds. And it's just,
It doesn't.
it was originally what I thought it was going to be, which is just the games again.
Yeah. Yep.
So like, and then nothing else really at the end. So
Hmm.
yeah, disappointed
Yeah.
with the direction they took it in.
Yeah, overall, I agree. I think season 2 and season 3, I'm not gonna go so far as to say that they were, a big letdown, because I was still entertained. There were still shells of like good thoughts and, good ideas here, but just execution on it was a little bit bad. I still got to ding Netflix a little bit for splitting up this season and calling it season 2 and 3, but whatever. It's fine. Like Netflix can do what they want. They're a billions and dollars or $1 billion organization, and they know what they're doing ish for the most part. But yeah, I think Squid Game will go down as one of Netflix's biggest successes, and kind of just showing the appeal of a global television. Is There's a lot of great stuff around the world that needs to be showcased, and I think, I do like that, Netflix is giving chances to South Korean creators or creators
Yeah,
from all over the world to just make
that's
content.
true. I'm not sure this would have been a hit before streaming
Yeah,
because it's that the language barrier and the fact that it is South Korean. I
yeah.
just don't think any network or any other platform would have taken something like that. And I think people would have been like, oh, it's foreign, it's in another language. I'm not interested. I think
Let's see. It is what, about 1:11 your time.
yes.
Do you Okay, I've got a kid looking at me, so I've got all right. So I think I gotta call it here. So let's why don't we set up time to go, because we wanted to maybe briefly talk about the Bears season 4, but if there's do you have anything else that you potentially wanted to chat about on another episode sometime?
What have I been watching recently? I can't even remember. Nothing current, I don't think. I think the stuff I've been watching recently is like in old shows.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have like an absolute ton of stuff to say about the bear.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Few
Okay.
things.
So why yeah, let's talk quickly about the Bears season 4, which this actually kind of similar to Squid Game seasons 2 and 3. It's like this is the first time that there's been like a season has kind of been like split up a little bit for the Bear, because season 1 had a complete story. Season 2 had a complete story. Season
Did.
3 kind of leaves us hanging with a cliffhanger for the first time, and then season 4 picks up not far after what happens in season 3. So John, general thoughts on the Bear season 4?
I I just like this as a character
Mm.
studied, like character progression of like particularly Cammy and I would say probably Richie and certainly Sydney
Yeah.
in terms of like the progression that they take. It's kind of just more of like the interesting kind of like dynamics again that we saw in season 3. The actual story of the bear is actually not the thing that interests me most of all. I think I just like watching these characters in general and like seeing the progression that their characters take and how they deal with the situations that they're faced with, and how Sydney in particular faced with a very difficult decision this season. And I'm honestly not sure what decision I would make in her situation. It's really fascinating. I am turned off from time to time about just how much arguing there is in this show and how much like people are just like not very nice to one another.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, I have worked in an industrial kitchen for over 15 years, and I know that is exactly what it's like. And
Mm,
I have met good-natured chefs that are kind of nice people to you in your work environment, but they're very rare. Most of
mm,
them are like that. So I do like that in that sense. I know that's exactly what it's like in a kitchen environment. So it's quite realistic in that sense. It's
mm.
just maybe like not exactly a chill out kind of watch. It's quite stressful to watch them just stand there and bicker and argue constantly. But it's also a very well written argument. I think the way that the lines overlap and the way I think a lot of it sounds sort of unscripted. Like there was one moment I think it was season 3 actually. I think where Natalie is talking about the woman that shows up at the wedding later on in this season, and she says to her like, "Oh, she can fuck." Obviously, what she meant to say was she can fuck off. But
Yeah.
so I like that. It's like it sounds like slightly flubbed line, but it sounds more realistic because people would
It
actually talk like that. I
it
think.
does
You know,
sound a lot more realistic. I would agree with this. I enjoyed season 4, but this is also the first time where it's like I'm not sure how much longer this show can go.
yeah,
Like, because I think it hit the height of its powers at season 2. Season 3 was good, not the best, but still good. And I'm I don't think I would ever say that season four is like a true return to form or like this is, the bear is back, baby. Like, no, I don't think I'd say that. What I will say is that season four, we get less brooding Carmy. And I think that's something that I didn't realize how grating Carmy was in season three until I watched season four. It was like, it was a bit much, and I think him starting to realize that and trying to make amends for that is, I think, a good thing. He's still grating on people because he's Carmy. That's what he does. I also think that it is just categorically fraudulent to call this a comedy at this point as well. It's not a
Oh yeah,
comedy.
I don't think they when they wrote this they were trying to brand it as like a comedy. I think that's maybe like streaming services and television, like just trying to get more people to watch it. Oh, it's a drama and it's a comedy.
Yeah, yeah. Granted, there were more funny moments this season than there were in season three. So I will give it a little bit of credit for that, but this skews way heavier drama, especially now in the later seasons. And the for the Emmys and the Golden Globes to continue this category fraud of saying, "Hey, this is a comedy." It's like, no, no, dude, it is not a commentary. If we can move The White Lotus from an anthology series to a drama series, we can move The Bear from a comedy to a drama series.
Is
So
is
to
there a
get
category for comedy dramas?
no, no, there's not in
That might be why then. What they
it.
need is a comedy drama category, really.
Yeah. So because no drama is dramatic all the time and no comedy is comedic all the time.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be those heavier moments in both of those. So I quite enjoyed season four. I really liked the wedding episode.
So yeah.
The wedding episode was really great and a nice contrast from, the fishes episode where, you get this really horrible, awkward family dinner. I think everyone's kind of been there with that, but just the joyousness of the wedding and just all the intercutting storylines and guest stars galore in
Oh
this.
yes, yeah.
Do you have a particular guest star from that wedding episode that you enjoyed?
Well, Bob Odenkirk is Bob Odenkirk is he's always great. I wanted to see a bit more of him in this one because I
I
imagine like they can probably only afford to have him for one episode because he's a big.
I agree.
And he's like, how much is he in that episode? It's like maybe a couple of scenes. It's like I
Hmm.
wanted more of him.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed Bob Odenkirk. Josh Hartnett was pretty great in that episode, but I think part of the reason why he's so great is just everything that him and Richie had together. I think was really great too. Brie Larson also sneaky good in well, good is a strong word, but
Because she's obviously a character that Natalie does not like.
mhm.
Like, have we seen her before?
We haven't seen her before. We've heard of her before, but we have not seen her. So Brie Larson, that was a good get for the bear.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So that wedding episode was great. That sequence under the table, like just all of them just gathering under the table, I loved. I love that sequence so much where they all go around a circle and they talk about something that they're afraid of. I really like that. And also the fact that Sydney's there, I think that was a great way to show that like, hey, Sydney is part of this family, even if she came in a little late. So I thought that
Really
was a
nice.
nice
Yeah.
touch. Yeah.
The other part I want to talk about is the sequence where Cammy goes to speak to Claire.
Okay.
Because I did find it kind of interesting that like we go through the whole of season three and that cliffhanger is not resolved like at all. Like season three happens and like when it's over, I'm just a bit like, hold on, that was the whole thing with Claire. You just like didn't resolve at all. Like it's like you said, like they did a similar thing with Squid Game. Have they split this season into two parts? It almost does feel like that because they just left that cliffhanger unresolved. But what I liked about how that actually happened, whether this was deliberate or not, is you kind of forget about that whole conflict with Claire by the time season four starts. And it actually didn't click in my mind what he was doing when he looks at the fridge door and then he goes off to go and see her for a moment. I was like, wait, what is he doing? Where is he going? I actually had to rewind the episodes and there's
Mhm.
that shot of the fridge door and he's obviously like triggering his mind. Oh yeah, that's right. I did a
I
terrible thing.
Yep. Yep.
So like, oh, he's finally going to go and speak to her. Yeah. So like,
Mhm.
I love the subtlety of that. That's like not even any dialogue or anything. He's just suddenly like like I almost like get the impression that it's been nagging in the back of his mind. Is like I have to go and speak to her at some point. You know, maybe he's been looking at the fridge door like every single night and thinking, oh yeah, I did that
Mhm.
thing with I did that thing to Claire, and then finally he looks at it like that one night and he's thought to himself, fuck it, I'm going now. I'm going to go and speak to her now, like this very second. So that was really nice, and the actual conflict, the way well, not conflict, but discussion he has with Claire when he finally gets there. I like the sort of way that evolves. That
Mhm.
he does just sort of like explain himself, and Claire's a bit sort of like, okay, I sort of appreciate the fact you've come here to explain yourself for what you've done here, but it's still not okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I got that kind of conclusion.
There were a couple instances with Carmi confront or not confronting, but like talking with people that he's had conflict with before. And there were varying levels of individuals who were like, I think this conversation was the best one of them all, where it also felt like you were watching like a real argument as well. Like
Yeah.
it didn't feel scripted. It didn't feel like it was for a TV show or manufactured or anything like that. It felt very real. And that's kudos to the writing, I guess, but also kudos to just both of those actors as well who
Yeah.
just did a great job of that. So I fully agree with that. Then you've got the conversation between Carmi and his mom, where
Yeah.
they talked after years of estrangement and not I did enjoy that conversation between them, not as much as the conversation between Claire and Carmi. And then that final episode where you've got Sydney, Carmen, Richie a little bit later on, but Sydney and Carmen in particular, they're finally hashing it out after, the last this season 3 and most of season 4, they've been just maybe not on the best terms because the lack of communication on both of their part. And the ending was very interesting with this because it ends with Carmen saying that he's getting out of the restaurant game, which
Yeah, it's interesting.
it's interesting. And this is what I was saying before. It's like I'm not sure how much longer the show can go. Carmen is not here because if he's the main character and he's the one where he's like, hey, I'm not gonna go away now, but I'm eventually, this restaurant eventually is going to be yours. But also he's put them in a pretty dire situation with
Yeah.
the constant switching of the menus and all of that stuff. And I think it kind of leaves them in a really shitty spot. And I think that it's cool that Sydney wanted Nat and Richie to be also listed as owners as well. I thought that was a nice touch, but also I don't know how much longer the show can go. I think it's got one more season tops, but like I'd actually also be okay if this was it too, which I know it's
Yeah.
not going to be
I
because
I think it probably will just be one more season, and it will probably like evolve into like Sydney just being the sole owner of the restaurant or something like that. The other thing I was thinking is maybe they are just going to write Cammy out. Maybe they found that like Sydney carries the show, like she's a much more popular character. Like everybody seems to love her more
Mhm.
than so they're thinking, well, yeah, we'll just make Sydney the main character. Maybe there's
Well,
maybe some of that to it.
but the other problem is that if you're looking at your three core cast members right now, which is Carmi, Sydney, Richie, both of those three have gotten infinitely more famous. They've gotten infinitely more work. I don't know how much longer the show can go. All three of these performers being as busy as they are now,
Yeah,
because Jeremy Allen White was just in the Springsteen movie that is set to come out soon. He's got more work. Io Ataberry has just been everywhere lately, and I think she's just going to continue to grow. And
but she
Richie's
is
the
the
thing.
thing.
Richie's the thing now. So like,
So that's probably going to be a pretty big thing now, no pun intended.
yeah,
Because obviously we know he's got an Avengers movie coming up now.
at least one Avengers
Yeah,
movie.
and probably
Uh,
another Fantastic Four.
yeah. So yeah, I don't think the show can go on for much longer, considering that how busy everyone is starting to become. I think one season wraps it up and you go out on top. You don't if next season were to be the last season, what are some things you'd like to see from a final season or a season 5 of The Bear rather than, final season, I suppose.
I want to see Sydney at least try this other restaurant that has approached her and like just see what that was like. And I'm almost wondering if Richie's character arc was maybe completed a bit too quickly. I love his arc in season 2, like the way he changes there. I almost feel like he's just sort of there as like a rehabilitated character now, and I want to see him maybe turn like more into like the season 1 Richie that we saw before, and then still like redeem himself at the end. I'd like to see a bit more of that. And Natalie actually is one that really sort of fascinates me in the way that she's kind of like toying with herself about running that restaurant and doing what's good for her brother and what's good for the restaurant and what they can do to save a bit of money. So I'd like to see a bit more of her because, she has probably the most complicated relationships with the other characters, like particularly Cammy and her mother as well. And also, I just love that actress.
Oh yeah, she's
that's a really difficult kind of role to pull off there, where she has like those kind of conflicting relationships, and she isn't really like on good terms with anybody.
No, she's
as well. That's cool, but you don't dislike her at the same time. You understand where she's coming from with everything that she does. So I think that's a really kind of impressive performance, and I want to see more of Will Poulter because he is Will Poulter. He has quietly become like a really like one of the best actors I think in Hollywood now. I think he's just sort of he's been very under the radar and just showing up in a lot of movies and shows and just owning every scene he is in. Like Death of the Unicorn earlier this year, he absolutely steals the show.
He does steal that show in an otherwise okay movie, so very much elevates that. And yeah, I completely agree. Will Poulter is just he's doing some of his best work right now, and he's definitely one of Hollywood's best in both television and in movies right now, which is fantastic to see that he's finally starting to get his due, especially considering how long he's been working in the industry, which is a long time.
He was in a Narnia movie as a little kid.
Yep, and
he was amazing in that as well.
He was a little shit because he was Eustace, right? And he was fantastic in that. And the only other things that I would like to see from a season 5 in computer need to make a decision on this, because you kind of get a sense that they're kind of veering towards it's time to pull the plug on this thing, even if it seems like the restaurant is trending in the right direction. But I think Unk and Computer need to make a call on this, because we have the timer there. It's counting down, and pretty sure it's at 0 right now.
Yeah, so, I'm pretty sure it went to 0 at the end of the season. Definitely.
Yeah. So
what is going to happen?
Yeah, what are we going to do? And then I guess the last thing is that I need more John Bernthal in this at some point. And I think we need to the sequence that we get with him and Carmy talking about like naming the restaurant and just why a restaurant. I think that I really love that scene a lot, and it just shows that, man, it sucks that John Bernthal's gone in this world, but
it's weird they get such a good big name actor to play a character who is already dead.
Yeah,
but can only show up in flashbacks.
But I could use just another episode-long flashback episode with him in it. I feel like at some point we're gonna find out what happened with like, obviously we know what happened, but just know maybe some more details of just the conflict that he was having. So I'm quietly intrigued about that. And then also I like this Carmy redemption tour that he's doing, and I want him to keep doing that. I don't need him to slide back into asshole Carmy. I just, I need more redemption from him. So we'll see.
Yeah. I actually have a couple of predictions.
Sure.
So I think maybe Marcus is probably going to go off and like big up the restaurant, because I think he's got this big opportunity coming up now. I think maybe he's going to try and convince them to keep the restaurant open, because he's going to just go out there and like say they're really good. You got to go there. You got to check it out. And there's also this mention of somebody visiting the restaurant, and I think is it Kami asks, did they review us? And she says no. And I think the twist might be that maybe actually they did review them and it was really positive. So I think that might save them ultimately.
I think those are great predictions. I guess one other thing that I'm also a little intrigued about, I'm very intrigued with this Rob Reiner character as well. Rob Reiner coming in for like not expecting him to come in and guess. Like, I don't know who the casting director is or the like who's booking all of these, famous Hollywood actors in The Bear, but keep doing what you're doing, man. Because I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's Rob Reiner, and he's acting. He looks like he's actually like kind of enjoying this. So that I don't think I would go so far as to say like I'm looking forward to it, but I'm kind of curious to see how that arc resolves because if that part of the restaurant is the only part that's like kind of keeping them afloat and they've got an idea to kind of like expand that, I'm very interested to see what all of that means. I think you're right. I'm looking for something more from Richie. I don't know what that's going to be. Is Richie going to get together with the main girl up front who's kind of running the show? God, I can't remember her name. The one that's kind of like
I
directing.
think I know who you mean. Yeah, I honestly I can't even see her face now in my head.
Yeah, yeah,
I know who you mean. Yeah, the one that took charge this season,
yeah.
basically.
Which that was, I think, that addition was a nice touch just to like kind of provide a little bit of calm to everything. And I think ultimately where I'm leading towards with the season 5 is that I'm just looking for the season to or the series as a whole to wrap up. I don't think it could go much longer than that. I think they've squeezed everything they could out of this particular story. So I'm just looking for a good resolution. Actually, no, I'm not even looking for a good resolution. I'm just looking for a resolution in general. So we'll see. John, anything else about the Bear season 4 that you wanted to chat about?
Just one other thing that's kind of funny for me personally is the actress that plays Natalie kind of looks like someone I used to work with.
Oh yeah.
And this particular woman is like one of the most wholesome and just pure people you never have the pleasure to meet. She's like just pure nicety.
Hmm.
So sometimes when I watch Natalie like running her mouth off and arguing, I'm like, Lucy,
Why?
what is the matter with you
Why?
today?
What are you doing? Oh, I love when that happens. There are instances where you see someone or see an actress or an actor look similar or act similar to somebody, and it's like, oh, that's always fun when that happens. So, does she also work in finance in a restaurant or
No,
no?
like that, no.
No. Cool. I guess the only other thing that I'll say about season 4 is that a lot of a lot of fun moments where it's like awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next. Like I love the sequence where Tina finally makes the dish in under the time that she's supposed to. It's because she's not thinking about it or she's not putting so much pressure. Or no, what they were saying is that pressure is good. You need to kind of lean into that pressure to where you can't function without it. Now, I think that's a good lesson. I also think it's kind of a horrible lesson as well because that's just putting undue pressure on people that sometimes don't need it. But I think for some people it actually does work. But that sequence where Tina gets it in like not just under the time, like a second under the time, but like she obliterates the time.
Yeah.
I loved that sequence. When Marcus was announced as the chef to watch out for, I choked up a little bit. Like
Yeah.
because I was expecting Sydney to be the
Yeah,
one.
I think they're deliberately trying to make you think it's going to be Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was Marcus, especially considering everything that he's going through this season, yeah, I like that, and I hope that they continue to develop Marcus as a character, but because he's slowly and surely becoming like one of the best characters in the show.
Yes, yeah, I definitely want more Marcus, and if it can't happen in this show, I'd like to see a spin-off maybe about him.
Yeah, where he opens
He's
his.
like just like another kind of under the radar character. I just want to see more of.
Yep. Yep, for sure. Yeah. So I think, looking forward to the Bear season 5, which I'm assuming is going to come out next year because like clockwork, these have all come out almost like a year apart from one another for all of these seasons, which is shocking considering, how busy some of these people are and the cast keeps ballooning out of
Yeah.
control. But overall, I enjoyed season 4. I'm looking forward to season 5.
Yep, same. Like really compelling television as it has always been.
Well, John, thank you very much for joining me on this early afternoon for you, early morning for me. Greatly appreciate it. Looking forward to chatting with you more. Where can the people find you if they want to keep up the conversation? And do you have anything that you want to plug?
So I am on Instagram, John Tillyard 86. That's the numbers 86. I am on Letterboxd. I think my username is Buck86. That's BUC. And I also write for SiftPop. I had two quite recent reviews in the last week, Happy Gilmore 2 and The Bad Guys 2. And I cannot remember what my next review is going to be. Like Robert, one second. I'll just look it up for you. All of You will
Oh,
be my next review in September.
nice.
And I also have a binge watch of the Conjuring films coming up at the end of this month.
Have you ever seen or have you seen them all or have you
I
or
haven't quite seen them all yet. I've
okay.
seen most of them. I think I have two left to watch
All right.
because I'm watching all the spin-offs and everything.
Got it. Well, I'll be sure to link some of those articles to the episode description because John's a great writer for SiftPop, so continue to check out his stuff and a frequent collaborator on here. Looking forward to chatting with you more soon.
Okay, cheers. Thank you.
That's going to do it for this episode of SPDM TV. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe to anything and everything SPDM Crew, wherever you get your podcast. Join us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, YouTube, and LinkedIn and Blue Sky Crew. Check out our website at SPDM. Shout out to HiFlyer Creative Studios for making our awesome logo. Greatly appreciate their support. And if you have any needs for marketing, logo, or brand standards, contact them at HiFlyerCreative.com. Check out the other shows on our network. We have a couple of exciting things coming up in the next week or so of some new shows joining the network. So we're really excited about those. Plus, check out the other shows on our network. Really proud of the work that everyone's doing. So I just continue to support them. And finally, if you've got a podcast idea or you're interested in being part of the SPDM crew as a guest or collaborating, email us at spdmcrew@gmail.com. Until next time, happy watching, friends.